Boer Prophet, Siener van Rensburg, Visions as Recorded by Anna Badenhorst, Part 9, 1 January 1919 till 26 March 1919. These are the visions Siener van Rensburg had, and were written down by his daughter, Anna Badenhorst. The visions were interpreted by several persons, and these are mentioned with every vision. I personally do not do any interpretations myself. This channel can only survive with your help. If you would like to contribute and make more of these videos possible, please click the thanks button below this video. Please note, where reference is made to Afrikaners, these are Afrikaners in context of what they were before 1994, when there was still merit and respect to Afrikaner as a name. In today's terms, there is no more respect for the name Afrikaner, but we have to remember that the interpretations in this video were made way before 1994, when the name Afrikaner was still respected. Please bear that in mind when watching this video. Let us begin with 4 January 1919, vision number 401. Siener sees. Then the ground was ploughed from the east, and the English wagons moved eastward, and an old yellow wheel remained behind, lying near Pretoria. An interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. Then the situation was politically and otherwise confused from Pretoria's side. English vehicles or a movement flee to the east, Durban, and an old English movement remains behind near Pretoria. 10 January 1919, vision number 402. Siener sees. There is a team of oxen in Europe, and in front 2 red white-back oxen pull, and they pull away. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. Red white-backed oxen are American officers. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. A team of mobilized soldiers move in Europe, and the officers, leaders, are 2 traitors, and they give way. 20 January 1919, vision number 403. Siener sees. In the Union there is a ditch, and at the top end of that ditch, a woman comes out. She is wearing khaki clothes and a sieve above her head. When the woman disappears, then the ears of wheat stands fully developed. Then yellow water runs a thin stream from the north to the west, over an old road. And when the water is over, then many merino sheep come out of the old road. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. In the Union there is a news channel, and at the source of the news there is a woman in the news. She is an English woman, perhaps Diana? Divorce hangs over her head. When the woman disappeared from the scene, then it was time. English news then came in a thin stream from England to the west, about an old tradition. And when the news dried up, many real Afrikaners came and let go of the old tradition. 26 January 1919, vision number 404, Siener sees. A furrow runs from the west to the east, and I walk along it. The water becomes a trickle in the furrow, until it eventually flows into a rocky area. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. From the west, a small stream of news is coming to Pretoria. The news is of Afrikaners' interest. The news gradually dries up until it eventually disappears into a secret place. 5 January 1919, vision number 405, Siener sees. Then in Europe, a group of yellow, bold cattle appeared. Very skinny, all at the same time, and it looked as if they wanted to come here. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. It's coloured soldiers. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. Then suffering English people with South African interests come from Europe. They emerge at the same time and they long for South Africa. 13 February 1919, vision number 406, Siener sees. Then, in Europe, a group of black bold cattle appeared, very thin, and all at the same time, and they moved to the southwest. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. Siener had this similar vision on 2 occasions. In Europe, black people who are struggling greatly come to the fore. They have interests in South Africa. They appear at the same time. They head to the southwest. 16 February 1919, vision number 407, Siener sees. In the west, there is tall grass like in old fields, and after a while, there is a small pathway where a large black pig comes walking towards here. Then the wheat was ripe in the north, and the grains fell out of the ears, leaving only the straw standing. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. In the southwest, the grass covers everything, like in old fields, which was previously ploughed or mixed up. Then a way of thinking arises. Then a big black leader involved in dirty things, politics, comes this way. Then the time is ripe in the north. Then the kernels come out of the ear, and only the chaff remains standing. 22 February 1919, vision number 408, Siener sees. Then from the west came a clear stream of water, and Nicholas is in the water, with a silver tongue in his hand, and the old woman is by the water wearing a new brown dress. Then in the west, large bunches of grapes appear. In the north, there is a bunch of sugar beans together, and after a while, they separate. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. Then reliable news comes about the war in Europe, and the younger generation fully accepts it in relation to our independence status. The people are purified, the silver tongue. Read Isaiah 48, verse 10. From German Southwest Africa, we reap the fruits of the labor of 1914. There are some Afrikaners who, in relation to the old republic, north of Pretoria, do not have faith in the 1914 agreement. They are unbelieving, but their unity disappears. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. Then from the west comes a stream of news that is true and good tidings. Our boys are in the news with skinny equipment, new weapons ready. Afrikaner women, they observe the news, and true Afrikaners gain new respect. Here in the west, in South Africa, strong faith emerges. In the north, a bunch of unbelievers gather, a meeting, and they disappear. 25 February 1919, vision number 409, Siener sees. Then long bean pods go towards the west, and the bright light that I saw 19 years ago in Europe comes bright again in the north. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. Prominent scholarly men deliberate and consider the German Southwest question. Our salvation that we know must come from Europe since 1900. We see it coming from the north. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. Then many unbelievers secretly flee the pods towards the west. The clear insight that Europe had in our cause 19 years ago reappears bright again in the north, Europe. 1 March 1919, vision number 410, Siener sees. The English are moving towards the west, carrying guns on their shoulders. Then I am beside a big white house, and there are many people in the east side of the house, but they are without hats. Then, on the east side, the the light that emerged during the 3-year war comes out. But there are just a few clouds in front of it, because it is not completely clear. Near Pretoria there is a bunch of peach trees, and the trees disappear, leaving a bare spot like a floor. In Europe, a large black snake is coiled up. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. The English soldiers go to the battlefield, but they are no longer eager to fight. Internment camp, and they await their redemption. They look to see when the day will break. Then there are signs of redemption, but we still can't see our way clear. Money that may be withdrawn or exhausted. Pension funds? In Europe, there is a great non-white problem. It is limited to England. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. The English are going home. The war is over. Then the Afrikaner is at a place of peace negotiations. There are many communists, east. They are not protected in the eastern side. The sign of hope and insight emerges. Something is preventing the light from being as bright as before. It is our economy that is crumbling. There is nothing left in Europe. In Europe, a great black threat is still inactive. Interpretation by Adriaan Snyman. Several leading communist-aligned figures will be shot dead in a single attack outside a building where peace negotiations are in progress. 5 March 1919, Vision number 411, Siener Seas. On the north side there are sugar beans, and the beans turn into maize. Then, near Pretoria, young maize turns into springboks and run into tall grass. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. Sugar beans are unbelieving Afrikaners. They have imperialistic tendencies. They join in with the springboks. Tall grass indicates a deceitful act. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. In the states to the north of us, there are brown non-believers, and these non-believers become useful. Young people become soldiers, and they operate in secret. 6 March 1919, Vision number 412, Siener Seas. Then there were young corn plants again, and they produced seeds. Then some dirty things came and took the corn. Then they moved in one motion and disappeared. And there was a human skeleton left behind. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. The latter part of the war experience taught the imperialist Afrikaner soldiers that the Khoisan, black, Australian, and other soldiers were given preference, and they had to suffer defeat as a result, ultimately resulting in bloodshed. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. Then there are young people again, and they become mature. Then bad influences come and influence the people. Then they start to act and go underground, and they commit terror and murders. 10 March 1919, Vision number 413, Siener Seas. Then there were young maize plants again, and it seemed as if they made a turn and came down this way. Then there was a floor, and on the floor lay cultivated soil. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. Young English people who switched sides and became pro-Afrikaner. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. There are young people again, and it seems as if they are changing their beliefs and coming here. Then there is a threshing floor, and on the floor lies clean soil. 15 March 1919, Vision number 414, Siener Seas. Then in Europe there were white-backed cows. They grazed towards the north, like cattle that are quite at peace. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. The English statesmen differ. Most of them go to America. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. Then there were Americans in Europe. They move slowly northward, eating as they go, like peaceful people. Interpretation by H.J. Dreyer. White-backed cows are Americans. Before the American occupation of Iceland, we couldn't say how or where this movement would take place. However, we sat and watched as the cows grazed their way peacefully towards Iceland. America pretends as if the act is nothing special, and that it was done at the request of the Icelandic government. But if it was such an insignificant matter, Siener van Rensburg surely wouldn't have seen it. The establishment of air and fleet support points there and elsewhere proves the opposite. Keep an eye on the cows. We may spot them again in the future. See also explanation on September 29, 1919. 22 March 1919, vision number 415, Siener sees. Then in Europe, pigs run in all directions, and most of them run towards the north. Then the springboks from Southwest Africa, Namibia, come out and headed towards the east. German East's cattle and white bucks disappeared, leaving nothing behind. Clean land. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. English flee northward in England. Sapper, soldiers, flee to Vereniging. Enemies of the Germans leave themselves German-like. Clean land, 1933 drought. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. Then in Europe, people involved in dirty things scatter. Most of them flee north. The government troops in German West, Namibia, move to east, German East. The people of German East and white English people disappear, literally, until nothing remains. Clean land, likely a reference to Siener van Rensburg. 24 March 1919, vision number 416, Siener sees. The Union gets a pale face from drought. In Europe, there is a large soap pot with boiled blood. Then the pot overflows and the earth is stained. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. Indicates the 1933 drought. Spanish Civil War, the boiled blood. Fraternal blood. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. The Union looks pale, white, due to drought. In Europe, there is a great revolution with violent or bloody battles. Then the revolution spreads and the whole world gets a face of revolution. World War breaks out. 26 March 1919, vision number 417, Siener sees. In the West Jaar, there were a lot of beans mixed together, white ones and speckled ones, but they are alive. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. All kinds of unbelieving Afrikaners are active. Interpretation by Nellie van Zyl. Then here in the West, Namibia, there was a bunch of non-believers mixed up, literally. There are white non-believers and traitors non-believers, but they are active. This concludes this session of Visions. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section and I will attempt to answer where possible. Please do subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you can be informed when videos are uploaded. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.